Greetings. My name is Jahid Marie Ortiz, and I am here to present my capstone paper titled Emotional Intelligence in the Workplace, the Modern Way to Achieve Effective Manager-Employee Communication and Increase Productivity. So today's agenda, I'm going to cover some definitions and let you know what emotions are and what precisely is emotional intelligence. We are going to talk about why it is important to have emotional intelligence in the workplace. We are going to cover some literature and see what the experts had to say about the concept. We are going to present some case studies and give some examples of behaviors that exemplify or don't demonstrate the emotional intelligence. We're going to compare these behaviors to the literature and kind of understand why someone is high or low in emotional intelligence, and then we'll wrap things up and conclude the presentation, okay? So we're going to start with emotions. What are emotions? According to Keltner, Tracy, Sauter, and Cohen in 2019, they define emotions as a brief state that arises following appraisals of intrapersonal and interpersonal events, involves distinct antecedents, signaling, and action and appraisal tendencies that demonstrate coherence. So what does this mean? Okay, to put it into simple terms, an emotion is a strong feeling, like when you're feeling mad or sad or afraid or even happy. Okay, an emotion involves a person or people. Okay, there has to be a circumstance or a reason why this person got that strong feeling. There are signals, internal and external signals, such as accelerated heartbeat, sweaty palms, and also there is an interpretation and a reaction from that individual as it relates to the emotion, the strong feeling that they felt. Okay, and I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. We all experience emotions. Yes, we do. All right, so what is emotional intelligence? The concept is a fairly new one. It was proposed in the 1990s by Cooper, and essentially, think of IQ, okay? IQ measures your intelligence and ability of like reading and writing and doing math problems. Well, with emotions, it's more the intelligence of how you manage and express those emotions that you feel and that of other people. Okay, so for the purposes of my paper, I adopted two definitions, both generated in 2005. The first one came from Malakar, and he defined emotional intelligence as a set of factors which involve awareness of self, okay, and managing emotions, developing oneself through the power of empathy, motivation, and building strong relationships with people, okay? And the second definition was by Chang Bung Bang, which I could have butchered that, my apologies. But he stated it very simple. He said, it's the ability to control your impulse and persist in the face of frustration. Control your impulse and don't overreact whenever you face difficult situations and people. Okay? So, now that we've covered the emotions and emotional intelligence, how does someone behave being emotionally intelligent? What are things that they are able to do? So someone who has high emotional intelligence can effectively identify what they're feeling, they can express how they feel, they can manage their feelings and communicate their feelings with other people. Typically, they remain in calm and in control whenever they are facing those difficult circumstances or dealing with difficult people. All right. So why is this important? Why is it important for a leader in a workplace to remain calm and in control and to be able to identify their feelings and that of other people and manage them? Why is it important? Well, it's important because according to Drigas and Papalski, they said in 2019 that every organization is an emotional place. Why do you think that is? Every organization is an emotional place, and it is because it's a human invention, it serves human purpose, and it's dependent on human beings to function, right? So essentially what that means is that people drive the business. But my point with this paper is that while people may drive the business, emotions drive the people. So if emotions drive people, leaders need to be able to successfully manage emotions in the workplace and not overreact, remain in control, calm, cool, collected when handling these situations. Okay? So the focus of this paper is really, high versus low emotional intelligence in leadership, and what that emotional intelligence, the impact, what impact does it have on the people as well as organizational goals. Okay, so again, leaders with high emotional intelligence, they know how to handle themselves, they work in teams, and they work well with other people. They use verbal and nonverbal communication to coach, support, motivate, direct. They value their employees. They inspire passion and motivation in the individuals that they oversee. Okay? Now, what this creates is happier employees and increased productivity, right? Someone who's able to solve problems creatively, make decisions using self-control. They are able to produce happier people and increase productivity, which reaches goals, right? Yes. Now, what is the opposite of that? The opposite of that then is the low emotional intelligence. So when we refer back to what it is to have high emotional intelligence, we'll know that someone with low emotional intelligence is not able to remain calm. They're not able to remain in control, and they do not know how to identify and express, manage, and communicate the feelings of themselves and that of other people in their surroundings. So, what do they promote? Well, disgruntled employees. People are not going to be motivated and willing to perform the job when they have someone who is overseeing them with low emotional intelligence. So it causes employee dissatisfaction, decreased productivity, delayed goals, turnover, and toxic environment. Who really wants to work in a toxic environment? Not me, right? So, moving on, Sign in 2006 said that there's two types of individuals. You have a traditional individual who says that emotions distract people, that emotions make people weak, and he says that decisions should be made with the head and not the heart, right? That's a traditional person. Then you have the modern individual who says, people should know and be able to identify and express their emotions in the workplace, because not doing so is not healthy for their mind and for their soul. And people become upset, and their productivity at that point is at risk because they're not motivated to do their job. Okay, so according to Goldman, right, there's 5 characteristics, he said this in 1998, that leaders must have to be effective and to have emotional intelligence. The person has to have self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy towards people, motivation, and social skills. Okay? Why don't we know this already? It's a fairly new concept. Would have been way cool to have this back in the day, so that as adults we know how to manage our emotions, because really we acquire our emotional intelligence from mimicking those in our surroundings. Later on in life it becomes trial and error, but it would have been very nice to know this when you were growing up. I think it could have had better outcomes, and if we would have learned this earlier on. But just know that emotional intelligence can be improved. If practiced, you can really mold your emotional intelligence to be extremely high. So for the case study of this paper, I chose 2 managers, Bertha and Eric. There is a subordinate, her name is Lynn, and Lynn reported to Bertha and Eric during different phases of her career. And we chose these individuals based on their characteristics and behaviors that either exemplify the emotional intelligence or the lack thereof. Okay? So when we compare these leaders and their characteristics to what the experts had to say, for example, with managing anger, Bertha always yelled in meetings. She yelled at people, talked down to people, micromanaged people. Whereas Eric never lost his cool. He was always very eloquent. His tone remained the same. As far as empathy, Eric handled conflict extremely well. Whether you were in tears, whether you were frustrated, he always listened and gave guidance and understood the empathy and supporting the employee versus, Bertha would constantly, make sarcastic remarks and just demotivated individuals with her behavior and her actions. So, what happened here is that when we compared these items for the empathy and the self-esteem and the managing anger and motivation, which are the variables that I chose for my paper, what happens is that we came to the conclusion that guess what? Eric has high emotional intelligence, Bertha does not. Hers is very low. So Eric was able to promote growth, reach goals. He built the trust and had that teamwork, and Lynn was very excited about reaching goals. She actually accomplished many projects and contributed to many enhancements in the department while working for Eric, whereas Bertha, okay, with low emotional intelligence, what she caused was, again, demotivation, a toxic work environment, turnover because Lynn ended up leaving. And so it was very detrimental to the work setting, not only for Lynn and Bertha, but also for others in the surroundings who observed this behavior. So again, I said that emotional intelligence can be improved if you apply some of these tips that I am going to give you. Then you can become emotionally intelligent and mold yourself to be able to handle difficult people and situations. So to improve emotional intelligence, you have to learn to understand emotions. You have to learn how to escape moods whenever you're feeling triggered. You have to activate moods whenever you feel unhappy. You have to remain in control. And also know that you have control over the duration of this emotion, okay? You have to be empathetic towards people, eliminate criticism, inspire and promote growth, okay? Because typically a manager, a leader, they're chosen to lead people, to guide people towards reaching goals. If you don't know how to successfully identify feelings, express feelings, manage, communicate these, and if you're not able to exhibit that role model persona to your people, they're not going to respect you. You're not going to get the best of your people. So it's very important that leaders and organizations hire for emotional intelligence and train their individuals that are already employed with this concept. So I also thought during this research that future research could perhaps focus on identifying what a good balance of emotional intelligence is, because the more I think about this, I'm like, okay, well, emotional intelligence is great, but there's also, a concept of too much emotion in the workplace, and I believe that may cause, some issues. So it would be very interesting if this research gets expanded to look at those items. So in all, we talked about emotions, emotional intelligence, the importance of it. We did the case studies. We talked about some literature and what the experts had to say. And now I'm going to conclude by thanking you for watching this video. I hope that the information presented is of value to you and you're able to get pumped and learn about emotional intelligence. Thank you and stay safe.